Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Cabinet today. Good to see so many people here. It's a really substantial document in many ways, in quantity and bulk, but obviously in content as well. For those of you at home, welcome. Hope you find today informative. Just to start off, I'll ask Cabinet members and opposition leaders to introduce themselves, but I won't ask all officers to. But could you introduce yourselves, officers, if you were asked to contribute? Thanks. So I'm Peter Fox, Leader of the Council.
Phil Murphy, Cabinet Member for Resources.
Good afternoon. Liz Hackett-Payne, Cabinet Member for Education.
Hello, Brian Jones, Cabinet Member for County Operations.
Bob Greenland, Deputy Leader, Cabinet Responsibility for Enterprise, Leisure and Culture.
Phil Hobson, Deputy Leader, Cabinet Member for Community Development.
Jeff Burrows, Cabinet Member for Social Care.
Dimitri Petruni, Leader of the Labour Group.
Good afternoon, Leader, and good afternoon, officers. Simon Howarth, Leader of the Independent Group.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. We have, like I say, a substantial agenda before us today, some 498 pages. I hope none of you tried to print it off. We did print one copy, and it turned out to be a ream thick. And that's printed both sides. So perhaps we could just consider in future about using links to the main big appendices, so we can just slightly shorten the capacity of the document, because it's very difficult. If anybody wanted to download it, it was 47 megs, so it's quite a lot to get through our system. Just to be mindful of that moving forward. Okay, so we'll move into apologies for absence. Well, everybody's here today, I'm pleased to say, and welcome, Brian Jones. We know you've had a rough time, and good to see you back here. Declarations of interests.
Yeah. Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I will need to declare a personal interest in item 3A, the business plan for the EAS. It is as the chair of the company that I declare that interest. That doesn't preclude me from taking part in the discussion or the vote formally. However, I do feel that it would be difficult for members of the public to recognise that I can wear two hats, both as a cabinet member and as a member of that board. So I will not be voting for in that plan.
Okay. Are there any other declarations? If you find one, please, as normal, can you declare that verbally and fill in the appropriate pro forma, which Sarah has circulated or will do after the event. Okay, we'll move then on into item 3, and the first of many reports, and that's the Education Achievement Service EAS Business Plan 2016-2019. Liz.
Thank you very much, Leader. And may I first introduce Kirsty Bevan, who is the Interim Assistant Director of the EAS, who is here and will actually talk us through this report, and also Nicola Allen, who I think is the Senior Challenge Advisor for the EAS. So I welcome you both there, both here today. It is a great privilege to actually present this report today of the EAS, their business plan. Those of us that have seen the formation of the EAS from its conception in 2012 and seen how much work has gone into achieving what is in front of us here today, and that is looking forward up to 2019. We can see when we look through this report, and I'm sure Kirsty will pick up on this, we can see how the percentages, the targets have been achieved, how they've gone forward, not only just in our county, but in the other regions, the other areas that are part of the EAS. We can see how this business plan aligns to the various policies in Wales, and also we can see how it has been consulted upon. As chair of JEG, which is the Joint Education Group, which is all cabinet members in the South East region. We've looked at the business plan and we have had discussion upon its content. And I also know that there is a recently formed it's a Risk and Assurance Committee, of which our Chair of Select and Vice Chair of Children and Young People's Select sit upon that. And I know that they are going to also look at the business plan that is in front of us today. This will go to Select and then they will pick up any recommendations and take them forward to that Risk and Assurance Committee. So in effect, I'm know that this time next year when we are in this position, that committee that has been set up will be looking at that, at the business plan. But again, like I say, it is with great privilege in many respects to bring this to see how the EAS has come forward and how all those pieces fit together. So I'll hand over to Kirsty to take us through the report.
Thank you very much. Thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to come here today to present the business plan to you. If I take you through the report, the purpose of the report is to endorse, hopefully, the content of our business plan. Just to give a bit of a background, we're required as an EAS, as the South East Wales Consortium, to submit to Welsh Government a 3-year business plan, which is updated annually. And this is the third iteration of the plan, which was first submitted in 2013. So this plan covers the period 2016 to 2019. And it is rather a large document, but this is really in a bid to be completely transparent about what we offer as a service. The business plan, if we look down to 4.1, sets out the overall targets. These can be found within section 5 to be achieved by the EAS, working in partnership with the 5 local authorities. And these targets are based on an analysis of individual pupil level data. The programmes of work then to achieve these outcomes are set out in detail for 2016-2017 and are contained within section 6 and section 7. The business plan then sets out 4 priorities, and if we note 4.3, the business plan contains an annex which is specific to Monmouthshire. This has been written in collaboration with the local authority and with our principal challenge advisor, and I'll hand over to Nicola at this point.
Thank you. This was put together through our analysis of Monmouthshire's Eston inspection and looking at the particular pieces of work that Monmouthshire still needed to do in terms of its education. So part of the annex is about supporting the schools within the local authority to ensure that they can work towards the howevers, if you like, from the Eston inspection. To arrive at that, we've worked in partnership with our subject specialist teams with Sarah McGuinness and Sharon Randall-Smith from the local authority, but also in partnership with the head teachers, so the head teacher strategy group. Your representatives from Monmouthshire on the head teacher strategy group, and they have shared the contents of the annex with the head teachers around the authority so that they have some insight and understanding into the work that the EAS will carry out specifically and bespoke to Monmouthshire.
Okay, thank you. If we can note point 5, 5.1 and 5.2, the financial implications of the plan are included within the relevant sections. Financial arrangements for the indicative core funding to the EAS from Monmouthshire represents for this year a 3% efficiency saving on the previous contribution. I'd also like to note point 7, the consultees to the business plan, just to reassure members that there has been a very wide consultation on the business plan. There have been many iterations as a result, and the final business plan is now available via the EAS website. Okay, thank you, but we would be welcome to take any questions.
Did you want to go further?
If I may just come back in and say that anybody who wishes to know more about the governance of the EAS, there is a training programme being offered on the 28th of April 2:30 at Llanwern, and I will send that out to all members so that everybody has a chance to understand the business plan and the governance of the EAS and be able to see that transparency that we can see as an authority.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Kirsty and Nicola. Good to have you here today. And I'm sure there will be some questions, I no doubt. EAS have been on a real journey over the last few years as all of us local authorities in the area, and we've all had our challenges to come over, but actually we've come over them together and really strongly in Monmouthshire's case. And I thank EAS for the part they've played in that recovery journey, and I welcome the business plan, especially the Monmouthshire annex. That is a really good news and a good picture for us to work toward, and I'm sure my colleague leaders in the other authorities have felt the same, because there's been a step-by-step incremental improvement in all of our counties. And that bodes well and speaks strongly of the EAS and the improvement offer it provides. And I'm also recognise that you're doing that within constraints as well, and I am pleased to note that there is a reduced budget expectation going forward, and that's good, and obviously aligns with everything else we're having to manage currently. So, colleagues, I'm going to open it up for specific questions or comments. Would like to?
Yes, thank you, Leader. I was really going to pick up on the point that you made just now, but welcoming the 3% efficiency saving. It's good to see that other agencies, and particularly the EAS, are as engaged as we are in delivering services at lower cost. So I welcome that reduction.
Okay, Dimitri.
Yeah, sorry, my laptop died on me, so from memory when I read it. On the efficiency savings, when we say efficiency, what do we actually mean? What does that actually mean in the real world? We hear that word a lot, efficiency, but what does that actually mean? How you saving the money? I really like, it's a comprehensive report. I like the targets. I like the poverty targets, actually. I like the way they're quite high. So that's encouraging. I know in the past it's had capacity issues. Are we confident those capacity issues have been resolved and can deliver the care our schools need?
Okay, that's good. Kirsty or Nicola, please.
In terms of the efficiency savings, as a service, we're very much keen to move in the future to a school-to-school model where we use our schools to support each other. So that has become very much part of our efficiency savings. When we started as the EAS 3 years ago, there were staff that we had obviously inherited from each local authority. Some staff have moved on. There have been staffing changes. We haven't necessarily replaced those staff, and we've used expertise within our schools to deliver programmes for us. I'm confident that the business plan will deliver the support that the schools in Monmouth needs.
Okay, Councillor Howeth? No, nothing further. So, any final questions? No? Liz, do you want to sum up?
Again, I think this is most certainly the way forward, and like I say, it hasn't been easy, and that the challenges have been there. And I think that this, again, it probably will evolve again over time. And I think that the transparency that we have here, the consultation, the way the committees work, how the EAS and the schools work together, it can be bettered, but I think we've got a pretty good model at the moment, and I think we're certainly going forward in the right direction.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Remiss of me to Sarah, did you want to make comment, obviously from our perspective as a...
Thank you. Sarah McGuinness, Chief Officer for Children and Young People. Purely to thank the EAS for the work they do in partnership with us constantly, and the involvement that we've had thus far with the development of this business plan. It has had many iterations, but we are satisfied that we've worked hand in hand to develop what we've got today. So thank you so much to our colleagues that are here.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm conscious that we're probably the last authority of the five to sign this off. My apologies if we've held things up. I don't want to hold things up any further, so I'll move us to the recommendations. And it is recommended that the Cabinet endorse the content of the EAS business plan. Are we all in favour? Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. You're welcome to stay with us if you wish, but I think you've probably got other things you need to get to. Okay, thanks again. Okay, can we move on then to the next report? And this is an update report, and it's about the development of Mardy Park Resource Centre. Councillor Jeff Burrows.
Thank you, Leader. This report today is a simple, straightforward one in that it seeks some support by a contribution from reserves to cover a number of redundancies as a consequence of the significant changes that are being undertaken in the transformation of Mardy Park from a residential respite facility to a community resource centre. The challenge being undertaken here is to rework the staff complement to provide a completely different service offer, as well as reconfiguring the space for the anticipated changing uses and demands, as well as satisfying mandate savings all at the same time. I know the author Colin Richards will be able to elaborate further, but it's my take that this will contribute to ensuring that all the demands and changes are delivered. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Jeff. Colin, would you like to come in? Where's Colin? Oh, Colin. Would you like to come in this point?
Hi, Colin Richings, Lead for Older People's Direct Care Services. Yeah, it's been a very complicated project, and it's been ongoing for a while. This is a critical point for us in terms of reorganisation of the staffing. I'm very conscious of the human element here, that staff have been through an awful lot of change, and it's been a very difficult time. So I'm very keen to move forward with this particular aspect of the developments at Mardy. Progress at Mardy has been really good. It's not quite there as what we would say is a true community hub, but as I was saying to Jeff yesterday, I think we can describe it as a community hub in the true sense of the word over the next few months, where it's a partnership not just with health and social care, but with the third sector and most importantly with the community. We've already got a very strong community presence at Mardy Park. We've got about 10 local groups meeting there on a weekly basis. We have 30 volunteers now actively working both at Mardy Park in the local community. We've already accessed and seen the establishment of nurse-led clinics from Mardy Park and a number of other services. These developments will continue over the next few months, and by autumn we'll have full nurse clinics running from Mardy, and also hopefully the establishment of memory assessment services and associated third sector support, so people receiving diagnosis of dementia are getting it in the right place with the right amount of support around them at that time. Over the next few months we're going to be developing more of our integrated service, intermediate care services and our short-term services, as well as a wealth of other services across direct care. But in terms of we're managing to deliver an improved and more diverse service offer whilst delivering the mandated savings at the same time. But this report is a critical juncture for us in terms of moving forward with those developments.
Thank you, Colin. And congratulations on what you've put in place there. I know it's still evolving, but it's not been without its challenges. I know that, and we've had several of those challenges in this chamber, I think, over the last several months. So absolutely a key stage, and recognise that this restructure now has to happen to realign with the new model, and recognise also the efficiencies which will arise from that. We know this isn't just about efficiencies, but there's a natural flow there, and in that regard, certainly as leader, I'm comfortable for us to take forward the recommendation on the redundancy element. Clearly, moving forward, these savings will be recurring as well, but also offering a better service to the community, and that's the key thing. Actually, how do we do things better and the user benefits, and we also, and the public, purse benefits as a result. So this is a good example, and I know we'll hear further examples later on in the agenda which build on that. So certainly support this. Colleagues, anybody?
Yeah.
Bob.
I too welcome this report. Transformation of any service is never easy. It's not easy on the staff involved, and it's not easy on the managers either. And I recognise the amount of work that's gone into here. One thing running through the resource implications in paragraph 5, which sticks out a bit, and I'm sure you've got an excellent explanation for it, but under domestic and laundry team, you'd previously got 129 hours, which equates to £60,000, and now you've got domestic team and lead cook under the same heading, and you've got 174 hours and £114,000. Can you tell us why, how that is explained?
Yeah, in the previous report, it showed a team of domestic assistants and a team lead domestic. In consultation with the domestic team, they decided they did not want a team lead from within their team. So we've used those team lead hours, which were predominantly hands-on, to go in to the domestic team. At the same time, we've been restructuring the kitchen team, and through consultation with them, we've arrived at 3 cook's assistants and 1 lead cook. And we've decided to implement the lead cook at that point to develop the community cafe, but also to explore the potential to use what are great kitchens at Mardy Park to offer potentially training and placements at Mardy. One of the existing handyman was successful in applying for one of the team lead posts for residential services, and that left a vacancy there. One of the biggest challenges we've had is how do you deconstruct a management structure at Mardy and still manage the things like health and safety, the grounds, etc. So the handyman leaving has left an opportunity for us to create a facilities post, sort of facilities manager, if you like, part-time post at Mardy. I hope that explains.
Yes, it does. Thanks very much for that. I completely understand. And I actually look forward to coming and seeing Mardy again. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I think actually Jeff's already set that up. We would like to hold one of our next informal cabinet meetings at Mardy, so we can have a real look at what's happening there, and obviously use the opportunity to meet there as well. So, colleagues, anybody else?
Yes, thank you, Leader. I think this is a very good example of what can be achieved by getting staff and the whole community involved, and I think that's the important thing, that everybody's got together on this. It has to be the way to keep facilities open in these cash-strapped times. So, this is a shining example for others to follow, I think.
Thank you. I also support this report and say, from conversations I've had in my ward with elderly residents, the one thing they realise is that they don't have to go to hospital for various services. Those can be close to home, and it makes them feel better if they're not going into hospital. So I most certainly do support that side, and it would be wonderful to be able to roll it out further, I think.
Okay, Dimitri.
Yeah, I've read this quite a bit. It's phenomenally detailed. And I have to say, it looks like a tremendous piece of work. I might have missed it, but as everybody reports, where's the outcome-focused aspect of it? I've seen some outcomes in the report itself, but there's no doesn't seem to be a clear delineation of what we're expecting. How can we keep you, how can we assess you kind of easily, whether you're delivering what you say you're going to deliver and meeting the needs that you say you're going to meet?
I think we have outcomes generally across all our services, but specific and measurable outcomes, I think, yes, they do need developing. We have a broad outcome, which is to offer more diverse services, more choice, more control. The issue that we've got at the moment is we're helping a lot of people really well, but the service offer is very restricted. So if you are well enough to leave hospital, but not able to receive the intensity of support at home currently, you'll go to Mardy Park and you will stay there for 2 to 6 weeks. We'll broaden the service offer by introducing a day therapy centre. That means that people can get that level of intensity, but if they have no nighttime needs, they don't need to stay with us. It also means that we can help people to discharge from Mardy Park quicker because we've got broader services available. So the clear outcome for us is to offer choice and control, but to help more people. But I totally agree, we need something that's much more measurable and quantifiable in terms of how successful we've been.
When do we expect to get something along those lines? Measures that are quantifiable?
I will include those in the... I'm due to write a briefing paper to Cabinet ahead of their visit in July to Mardy Park, and I will get something into that paper, and with their permission then obviously that will be shared.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Dimitri. Simon.
Yeah, may I just ask a quick question, Leader, on the issue with the respite, which was at Mardy Park, and just trying to understand the document now about respite and the future of respite for the whole of Monmouthshire, really, but basically based around the Brynacombe area and issues revolving around many councils do have contacts with people looking for respite. Would we be looking at totally removing respite from Mardy Park if the future for Mardy Park is to go in a different direction?
The information I have at this point, absolutely not. We're committed to providing a minimum of 2 respite beds at Mardy. Work is ongoing and has been for a number of months about, again, broadening that service offer. The feedback from the people that use our services currently is, it's a great service, but it's the only service that's available to them if they live in the Brynacombe area. So we're exploring the use of shared lives as a scheme. We've just put somebody in touch with a holiday, a supported holiday, where they can take respite together, the husband and wife. Often, husbands or wife want to break from the caring, but they don't want to break from the person, and they would like to have that break or respite together, and that's something that was previously not available, so we want to make that more available. So there is a commitment to keep residential respite at Mardy, but what we're hoping to do is give greater choice, but help more people as well.
The reason why I asked that question is many councils do get asked about the respite and which direction they do take, where they've been diverted from Mardy as it's been scaled down, and it is a major concern where people who need that space, whatever reason, where they need to go. And I think we should do a little bit more work as a council in directing people and trying to help them in where it's been noted the only place they have is Mardy, 2 beds, and if they're booked, it's difficult for them to go elsewhere. They may not be able to travel out to our other areas. They may have to go out to county, which is a great strain on them. But just a point I want to make, it is a major concern at respite.
I'm going to invite Julie before I did to perhaps reflect on that last point a bit.
Thank you, Leader. I think this report has to be seen in the context of the wider transformation that's occurring in adult social care. So although we're looking at Mardy today and the provision specifically there, the wider remit is around enabling personal outcomes for individuals. We purchase a range of respite support for people, not only in our Mardy provision, but in the independent sector. And as Colin referred to, shared lives is an area that we're looking at. We're looking at scaling that up. I think we've got to be able to understand the needs of our population and what people are telling us and actually shape and flex that. And I think that's part of the continuum of work, and we'll see a little bit of that later as well. So I think, the Mardy bit is important. We're committed to keeping respite, but we've made that a proportionate approach in the context of the wider service offer that we plug into and are developing.
Okay, thank you, Julie. That's really reassuring. Okay, I'm going to move us then to the recommendations. I'm going to read, there's 3 recommendations out for the benefit of those at home who may not have the papers. 2.1, that Cabinet supports the ongoing development of Mardy Park Resource Centre as a community hub, promoting and supporting the health and well-being of the Brinacombe community. And 2.2, that Cabinet support the application for a call on the redundancy and pensions reserve of £102,486 to fund redundancies as a result of the service redesign for costs not met within current budgets. And finally, that Cabinet approve revisions to the staffing structure originally approved by Cabinet in October 2015. Can I move those, please? All in favour? Great, thank you very much. Thank you, Colin. Appreciate the work you're doing now. We're looking forward to coming up and taking a closer look. Okay, thanks. Right, let's move on then to 3C. There we go. Right, consultation report on the proposal to close the special needs resource base at Derryview Primary School. Liz.
Thank you very much, Leader. This, in many forms, has come to Cabinet, I think, at least twice before, as this is part of a Welsh Government process. We needed to start the consultation, inform Cabinet, and now we're coming to the point where we're actually closing the consultation. As with any consultation, when you start, till you've actually spoken to people, you don't know what the outcome of that consultation is going to be. You need to listen to what people have to say and take on board any recommendations that come from other statutory bodies and consultees. As with any consultation, we've done that, and the proposal is, in effect, to take on board what Estin have said, that maybe it would be better to look at the all of our special needs resource bases within the county instead of just looking at one on a sort of ad hoc basis. So taking that into consideration, we will actually do that, and that will be part of our Phase 3 ALN review, which is ongoing at the moment and should come to fruition in the next 6 to 12 months' time. So I hadn't, well, in effect, it wasn't thought of at the beginning, and I think this is probably a good way to take it forward, looking at that sort of holistic approach. Also, as well, when this consultation started, there was also a budget mandate put with this particular proposal. And again, we knew that with a proposal, it is only that, a proposal. So in some ways, the budget saving was a proposal. We know that we will have to find that within the Directorate, and that those plans have been put into place, and that will be found. So I just wanted to point out that as far as the resources are concerned, those are in hand. And in effect, Derryview will stay as it is at the moment until this final Phase 3 ALN review has taken place, and we'll be looking on a holistic approach as to all the special needs resource bases within the county. I think I'm quite happy to take any questions, but it has been quite a full consultation. There is a list there of everybody who has been consulted, and that's really where we are with it at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Liz. Sarah, would you like to add something at this point before we come in?
Other than that, to say we've taken what we've listened to very seriously, hence coming back to this report and to be in the position we're in today. But I'm very happy to take any questions, as are any colleagues in the room. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. And can I also put it on record, can I thank everybody who really got involved with this? Parents, the staff, the unions, politicians. Indeed, it's been the focus of many political campaigns. And just really for the contributions that people have put in. And I think this demonstrates that consultation is meaningful here, and as it should be. And there's been some strong messages, some good points made throughout, and I welcome those. And I think I absolutely agree with the recommendation that this actually does need to be looked at in a whole authority approach, and not on its own, and it should be seen as part of a whole holistic, as your word, Liz, of the ALM provision here. So it's good to have the report before us with those final consultation results, and I'm pleased that we have the recommendations that we have alongside it. That bodes well for our consultation processes here in the county, and I look forward to receiving some further work on phase 3, which I dare say will be probably some months away, I would imagine. Okay, colleagues. Anybody else? No? Okay. Dimitri.
Thank you. Yeah, a few questions. The first one is the delay and the worry that puts on teachers and parents and pupils alike. But I wonder if it could be explained to me in more detail. It's being delayed so we can have a kind of more assessment across the region about ALM provision. A more comprehensive understanding of that. But if you read the kind of responses to the questions to the petition in the paperwork, it sort of says that basically only 2 children, no other child is going into other Monmouthshire services. There's 2 children going to special services out of Monmouthshire, but the vision is to put more children into the mainstream school at Derry View. So why is it being delayed, given that we want to look at the region and the kind of ALM across services, even though the plan is to basically put them into mainstream anyway? So I wonder the slight disconnect there. I wonder if you could explain that to me. Also within there's a question about autistic children. Have autistic children been specifically considered? And the answer doesn't really answer that. It just sort of says that autistic children are not solely involved in this. And that's of course true, but it doesn't answer the question of the particular needs of autistic children, given that they like routine and consistency particularly. That doesn't seem to be answered, and I wonder if you can give greater clarity on that as well.
Yeah, please.
I'll come in first of all, but I'll ask probably Sharon or Sarah to come in after that. I think actually the points you make are very, very valid, and that's in effect why we're looking at this as a whole, as a holistic approach. Basically, it is the definition of the unit at Derry View. It is of moderate learning difficulties, if I'm correct in my memory, and in effect that is the sticking block with, in effect, that unit, because you can't have children in there that have anything other than those needs. And those needs, because nothing has been reviewed with Derry View over many, many years, those needs are being dealt with already in mainstream schooling. And I don't want to necessarily get on to who is accessing that facility at the moment, because there are only 2 young people there, and it's so small, the numbers, that it's quite apparent who they are. So I don't necessarily want to go down into the specifics, but there are only 2 young people there at the moment, and we wanted to look at basically the need of such things as autism and other needs that cannot be dealt with there on a holistic basis, so that they can be dealt with within the county, and every child has that opportunity to an equal education, and not just in certain pockets. So I don't know if Sarah or Sharon would like to add to that.
Thank you, Councillor Hackett-Payne. In terms of delay, we want to get this right from the outset, and we have spent time listening to responses, answering questions, and we do so, and we'll continue to do so on a daily basis if necessary. I feel very strongly there isn't a disconnect, but there's very much a connect across our county now in relation to knowing what the needs of our young people are, but also knowing what the needs of our emerging young people are too, and those early interventions that we need to make sure are in place. In relation to the particular needs of children with autism, we do take that very much into consideration, and we don't have facilities that are able to reach out to the numbers that we need to be reaching out to. But equally, we've said from the outset that we need to upskill our education workforce across the board, because children with autism are not necessarily taught, and they do not necessarily learn in isolation, far from it. Life is to be lived, and there are adults with autism that were never identified as having autism. They would have been the adult that was slightly different in a family. Nowadays, we're able to diagnose, and we're able to understand the difference between autism, attachment disorder, and so on. And we want to get this right. So in relation to delay, I absolutely understand that there may be concern amongst our education workforce, but I also know that our education workforce do this job for the right reasons, and they will also know that we want to get this right. Therefore, some weeks or months in terms of pace shouldn't make the difference when it comes to getting it right for our children. I think maybe if Sharon Randall-Smith may want to add to the detail of this, but equally I'm obviously here to answer any more questions that maybe come up from around this.
Thank you, Sarah. Sharon, do you like to come in?
Sharon Randall-Smith, Head of Service, Children and Young People. Just really to add that the development of the ALN review and its ongoing nature is really almost in parallel as well with our new way of working with the EAS. There is a much greater focus at the moment on working collectively across the region, and that has come in quite late in this process. But really, it is, of benefit for us and for the young people and for our workforce to make the best use of that opportunity and to look more closely at the facilities that are currently on offer across the region, but also the ones that we are all developing collectively to be able to meet that need. So almost a little longer will enable us to have a far better and a more appropriate solution to meet the needs of our young children. Young learners within the authority.
Thank you, Sharon. Simon.
Yes, Leader, and I'm sure you'll remember, Leader, that we actually invested in this unit in Derryview solely for special education needs, and that was many years ago when the school was built, and it hasn't gone where we would like to have gone. But I still have criticism. We've been sending our young children who have needs to the main line of their direction of their schools, which do have difficulty in actually probably delivering some of their needs there with what they have. And I do have concerns really in the long term. Is this a mistake that we're going to be making with closing this special needs base? I think long term we may regret this with the senior officer has said that we have looked at the long term. I don't think how you can look at the long term with what we're dealing with young people and their needs. I think the next report's quite clear as well on 3D. We do have needs, and I think it's a sad day to close this unit. I'm really disappointed that we're taking this decision on this unit, Leader. And my question to you is, hang on. You put it into mainline stream. You guaranteed the people of Monmouthshire and the area that we would have a special unit in Derryview School to deal with needs.
Sorry,
Leader, I finished there. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Simon. I think you've just slightly misunderstood. We're actually not saying we're closing it. We're saying actually it will remain as it is. And it will be looked at again along with all of our other ALM provision across the county. I make no apologies for working toward a system which integrates children into mainstream wherever possible. However, while saying that, I recognise there are children with specific needs which may need something else as well, and autism is a very clear point and a good point made. And I think, and I welcome that we're going to have this review so that we can actually take that all-encompassing picture. And you're quite right, Simon. I remember the days when we built Derry View School at £6.8 million, I think it was at that point. Nearly half the price of what one would cost today. There was a specific expectation of that unit, as I think Liz explained, and the nature of it has changed now, and the nature of thinking, the nature of our thinking in regard to special needs and additional learning needs has changed, and it is right and proper. And yes, perhaps with hindsight now, I wish we'd have taken that decision to have included this in that holistic review earlier. But it's been a useful process. It's been a challenging process as well, to hear what everybody has to say, and then collectively, parents, governors, unions, LEA, EAS, ESTIN, we can come to a model which is absolutely right for the learner. And it is the needs of the learner which has to be overarching everything else, and hopefully we'll get to a really strong position in that regard. So the recommendation is, Liz, did you want to add something else? Sorry.
The only thing I wanted to add was to thank Sharon Randall-Smith for the work that's been done on this and the meetings that have taken place, because I know that there have been quite a lot of consultations, and Sarah as well on that.
Okay, thank you. The recommendation then in 2.1 is to fully consider the place of the SNRB within the much wider review currently underway, including the provision of additional learning needs and inclusion services across the authority and the South East Wales region. Are we all in favour of that? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Sarah, on that one. Okay, let's move on and to the Acorn Project Staffing Restructure. Liz.
Thank you very much, and I welcome Claire Evans, the author of the report here, who no doubt will answer any questions if there are any. This is bringing to Cabinet the Acorn project has had its funding reduced. I think 100% was funded through Welsh Government Families First grant, of which there has been a reduction of almost £60,000. So there has been a review of staffing, and the redundancies are there in the recommendations to propose restructure of one full-time family support advisor and a half full-time language and play worker. I am led to believe that the projects that they are involved in will not change, and they will continue as they have been before, and the sterling work that is being done will be continued. The proposed restructure, if it is approved, would take place in July 2016, and I bring this to Cabinet for recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Liz, and welcome, Claire. Is there anything you'd like to add, Claire?
Claire Evans, Acorn Project Manager. Just to reiterate what Councillor Liz Hackett-Payne said, the service delivery, we're aiming to keep as much of the services delivering in the community as we can. We're looking at alternative delivery models for some of our programmes, like language and play. So in the absence of a language and play worker, we will continue to offer language and play to families across Monmouthshire, but maybe in a different way. So we will be working with less families. It'll be inevitable because we've got less staffing. However, I feel the impact is not going to be great, and we can still offer a service to all families that require it in Monmouthshire.
Thank you, Claire. And, you know, I don't underestimate the challenges you have. It is disappointing that we've seen a £86,000 cut to the Families First budget, and I know a large portion of that has knocked onto your service, which is a key service. And it is a shame that some people maybe, you know, there won't be quite so much access to the project as we would have liked. but I am confident that, and I know you well, and what the service can do, and it's fantastic what you do, and I'm sure we'll get through this. So this is a pretty clear, straightforward report. As Liz points out, it's basically to approve the restructure and to and the associated redundancy payments regarding that. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Colleagues, anybody wish? No, Dimitri.
It's an amazing service. I was lucky enough to see it, and some of the basic things that I dealt with there, incredible. And I recognise the funding's been cut, and I'm just wondering, two questions really. Although I probably understand the answer to the first one is, I see the Monmouthshire Local Service Board met to kind of review services and which services should take the cut, really. And I'm just wondering the thinking behind why Acorn should take some of that cut. I can understand because there's probably amazing other programmes all around Monmouthshire. But also, has the Cabinet considered basically covering the financial hole? Is that even possible? I don't know. I'm sort of asking. Because given that amount of money, £86,000, given the amazing work it does, given that poverty in Monmouthshire, in my opinion, is more acute given the level of relative wealth Monmouthshire generally is compared to other counties in Wales. I wonder, and the council, to its credit, has got a poverty strategy and it's included in its plans. And I'm just wondering, would it not be wise to maybe cover the financial shortfall to help one of the most vulnerable families across this county?
Yeah, well, Dimitri, I wish we could find it £60,000. You know, with respect, I would ask you to ask other colleagues near Cardiff why they felt it necessary to cut this grant, such an important grant to an area of Monmouthshire which is in real need, so, you know, as much as I would love to have £60,000 to backfill this, I'm afraid we haven't. We know that. We know the situation we're in, and you know that as well. However, I have great faith in the project, and we need to, and we will be always working closely with Claire and the Acorn project to help it deliver all it can. I'm pleased to note that the majority of things are not going to be over affected, but I'm conscious of the pressure that will put on existing resources and staff. We can't get away from that. But we just hope that perhaps things turn around going forward, and there is a rethink on the distribution of monies coming forward into these projects, especially such needy areas. North Abergavenny is one of the most deprived areas in Wales. We know it had community first status removed a couple of years ago, which was disappointing as well in many ways, and I was quite surprised that actually happened. And again, people tend to underestimate, I think, the level of deprivation and challenge there is in parts of Monmouthshire, and we clearly have those, just as any other authorities done, but quite specifically there as well. Simon.
Yeah, I think it's on the same lines, Leader, but I know this is very reliant on the grant funding from the Welsh Government, and you've made it quite clear to my opposition member there that we will not be funding this. We will have to manage. It's been made quite clear there will be families who will go without. May I ask you, if we have a benchmark there, if the funding's cut again, where will we go with this? Because I have been always cynical and critical of us doing things as a council by taking 100% grants with no support from the council, and then all of a sudden we do have the funding cut, and all of a sudden we've built something which is brilliant, is great. This is absolutely a wonderful, the two organisations, the Families First and the Acorn projects that we do deliver are absolutely wonderful, but we do have a problem. It's the funding side of it, and it does worry me that if it's cut again, we're going to have to cut it again. And I would urge the Cabinet member to have some real strong thoughts of where we are. We are going to be setting budgets, mandates in the next few months. I would urge you to sit down and think, if this gets cut again, do we try to retain it or do we let it go? Because there comes a point when you want to save it or you don't want to save it, and I believe this council would be morally wrong to let this go.
Thank you, Simon. This is an area of work we're never going to want to turn them back on, clearly. But this is 100% funded by Wales Government, and we're in the hands of Wales Government here. We need to make and lobby and make sure that through the WLGA and others that these sorts of projects are preserved. And sadly, too often we see initiatives which are created and we embrace and we scale up and we roll out, and then we see monies reduced, or we see the monies, so say, going into the settlement, and we have to manage it. And that's just a fact of life, sadly, with quite an ad hoc approach to funding from Wales Government over the last several years. But I know, Will, this is an area which you're very close to, and I'm sure you'd like to reflect.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, it was a very difficult decision process for us to have to go through, and we were all very disappointed that Families First was the only one of the Welsh Government tackling poverty streams of funding to be cut in the last budget. Particularly, it's the one that we benefit from within Monmouthshire, not being recipients of Communities First. So we really worked very hard with the projects and with our partners from the local service board, so representatives from Nair and Bevan and from the Registered Social Landlords were involved in the group that reviewed all of the projects and really made sure that where we were continuing to fund, we were funding at a level that was appropriate, proportionate, and continued to meet our needs. The other dimension that plays out in this is that in the letter advising of us our funding level, Welsh Government was very clear to direct us that we should enhance the funding that we put towards our team around the family service. At the moment, we have a limited capacity with our team around the family service in terms of the number of people working in that team. And we took the decision to enhance that, which will mean that we'll be able to work with more third sector groups, more public service bodies as well, to make sure that we can act in a really preventative and early stages of families' problems and crises to stop them developing and reaching the front door of our children's services colleagues. And it was weighing up the investment in teams around the family and the cut that we had to make across all of the projects that we had to do, and it was very difficult. But we did it with a multi-agency approach, and we felt that the decision we'd come to was fair.
Okay. Thank you, Will. That was really helpful. Okay, right, I'm going to move us then to the recommendations, 2.1 and 2.2. First one, to approve the proposed restructure where one full-time equivalent term-time family support advisor post and half a full-time equivalent term-time language and play worker post will be deleted from the structure to take effect from July this year. And the second recommendation, to approve up to £15,000 of associated redundancy payments from the Redundancy and Pensions Reserve should staff not be redeployed and the service budgets be unable to cover these costs. All in favour of those recommendations? Yeah, thank you. Great. Thank you, Claire. Okay, let's move on then to the evaluation of community coordination. Jeff.
Thank you again, Leader. The community coordination and local enterprise pilot has now been with us for quite a while, and I thought it prudent to request that, given the funding provided for this important exercise, that an interim progress position should be given. Can I thank Nikki and Matthew for their reports, and I'm sure you will be taking questions as and when necessary, and I thank you for that. I was at the Adult Select Committee meeting that considered it recently and noted the high level of satisfaction with the continuing direction of travel of this project, together with the valuable comments made not least in respect of suggesting a more focused methodology be employed in evaluating client feedback. Before I go on, I just want to set out my view about the perspective of such a pilot and how it should be scrutinised, because whilst the money is important and the subsequent cost savings have been significant, the core value is in the learning it provides and should not be judged only on how much it cost and directly how much did it save. I can safely declare that the learning value has been huge, and whilst there is some difficulty in apportioning direct cause and effect with respect to the funding, the overall evidence speaks for itself, in that at the very least we have a service that, in face of increasing demographic pressure, demand remains constant with an overall underspend position. Quite remarkable when you consider the do-nothing option that is highlighted in the graph shown on page 319. I do acknowledge, though, that the community coordination effect on the graph is minor, given how late it starts to impact chronologically. But let's remember that it was funding just 2 coordinators in 2 specific areas, whereas the preceding services, namely frailty and our fantastic integrated services teams, are both county-wide in place and have been embedded for some considerable time. So what have we learnt? One disappointment, in my view, has been the inability to wean off those individuals that have already started on the path of service dependency with social care and or health. So the effort going forward must concentrate on those people that are on the brink and deflect them away from this journey, encouraging them both to value their independence and their well-being. I think the report is also telling us that there's only so much that coordinators in of themselves can achieve, and it's by offering place-based solutions that the big wins will start to emerge. Places such as Mardy Park will not be a day centre for Bridnicum, but a fantastic community hub that will facilitate all manner of interest groups, as well as its in-house social care and health day service options. I also hope you had a chance to view the remarkable story of the Roggett Calf emailed to you a few days ago, which for me really illustrates what can be achieved by a community for its own residents. My one reservation, though, is that in our rural communities and with those isolated and less able to travel, person rather than place may still have more value. I believe we still need to consider the coordinator ethic out in the harder to reach areas, and so perhaps volunteer coordinators allied to community councils, perhaps supported by a little bit of precept funding, and I hope that doesn't set any hairs running in that respect. Perhaps that way we could contributing to ensure that the opportunity for health, well-being and independence is available to all our citizens, no matter where they live. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I'm pleased Nikki's here today. I know, Nikki, you developed this thinking with others, I know, but some while ago, and it's sector leading. I was questioned in lots of forums about what are you doing there. This is really exciting. Can we come and have a look? And it's been. I think it's a real success. I know we had to spend a lot of money up front, but sometimes you have to do that to reshape and redesign something, which in this case is washing its face anyway from the financial side. But more so than that, I don't want to worry quite so much about that. It's actually, what's this meaning to people's lives, now, which is so different, the experiences those people can have by staying in their communities and being active and just doing things that the old system wouldn't have provided. I think that we can't measure that. I don't know how you find a social currency to evaluate, only by talking to people and asking them how much better is their experience as a result of this approach. So, I just when we look at 4.5, where we talk about those monies, that cost avoidance and that graph on 319, you can just see, if we'd have done nothing. I know there was other things which happened back early on in 2008 or whatever, which really had made a difference. But all of these things add to that experience where we are leading the way and doing something different. That's how I see it, and I just really welcome it and the lessons that are learned from it, and how we're going to roll it out further and further and just make people's life experiences in their latter years. And yes, they will eventually might have to get into a different type of formal care. We know that. But if we can actually do more to put that off as long as possible, crack on, it's good. Okay, so colleagues, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Leader. Nikki is just looking at the recommendations a minute. You say Cabinet are invited to consider the report and the accompanying appendix to evaluate. I'm stressing these words to help you with the response. The extent to which the business case has achieved what it set out to do, and the extent to which the learning can be used to inform future development of services, and that officers are tasked with using this learning to develop the next stage of the transformation policy for adult social care. I get all of that bit, but me being me looks at the hard-nosed thing, and the reader referred to 4.5, where it talks about the money that has been spent, and I'm looking at at how we are recovering that money. So I'm looking at the cashable savings that come out of it. Forget the social care side now. I think that's a given. But the cashable savings and how we're getting towards the amount of money that we've spent and how we're going to evaluate ongoing savings to help us with subsequent budget mandates. So
an older group would have been a significant increase, and Julie and Claire would have been coming to you with significantly higher cost pressures, because we would have had to meet those needs with very traditional care models. So this combined effect of this transformation has really been cost avoidance rather than cashable savings. What we can say, and you'll note from reading the report, it hasn't been possible to generate an up-to-date position of the cost avoidance to the 31st of March 2016. And the reasons for that are primarily because of the transition to the new database. We need to do a lot more work before we can put a robust figure into the public domain. What we can say, the last robust figure we produced showed annual cost avoidance of £211,000 a year. On the forecast numbers, that would be rising to sort of mid-300,000s a year. And of course, those figures are cumulative. So that's an in-year cost avoidance figure. So it was 27,000 in year one, 211,000 in year two. So as long as we've continued as we expect, and this is consistent with the overall budget position in adult services, which is showing an underspend, at some point in the last few months, that investment in the transformation in adult social care has in fact broken even. But what the evaluation is saying in terms of future cost avoidance is that for the reasons that were mentioned by Councillor Burrows, it hasn't been possible to pull people out of existing services, and so future projections of cost avoidance need to be reconsidered and remodelled based on the evaluation and the learning up to this point. So at this point, we're probably at the point of break even. Looking to the future, we'll have to do some more modelling based on the redevelopment and the evaluation work to date.
I think cost avoidance to me is the same as bankable cash in many ways, because it's stuff we would have had to been paying if we hadn't have done anything, and it would have been a huge, humongous burden on us now, and it will be, and it will escalate. Nikki, do you want to come in, or Julie, do you want to come in on over everything? I should have asked you in earlier. Sorry.
No, it's perfectly fine. Thank you, Leader. I think just in terms of, again, it's referring back to the Mardy bit. Everything that we're doing in an adult services perspective is linked, and it's part of a whole system change. The community coordination and small local enterprise bit of it is significant, and it's particularly significant because of the duties that are placed on us by the Social Services and Wellbeing Act that come in, or have come in, sometime this month, I think they happened. We'd started this journey a long, long time ago. So actually we're beginning to see the benefits of embedding that approach. And I think the learning from this has given us the ability, and we're very grateful for the investment really, to have been able to do this, because it's giving us that lever to say this is the right way to change and the right way to go, and actually we can build on this for the future and feel confident that this is the model. The model has flexed and will change according to what we've learned as a result of the experience. But it needs to be seen as a whole continuum. And Jeff referred to the changes that have been in adult services for some time around reablement, around our integrated platform delivery. They all contribute to this. And actually sometimes separating out that avoidance figure is a bit tricky because it's cause and effect across the whole system. I am confident, as Matt has described, that actually our position from an adult services perspective has been tracking under or towards online, but has always remained under for the last 4 years. So this is really beginning to have traction, and there's further to go, and we believe that we can go further. But this gives us that confidence to say this early intervention approach in communities, in places, is going to be a really good platform.
Just add one point that this opportunity has provided us again the opportunity for us to establish some very clear and positive working relationships with people that are described in the Act in terms of collaboration. So we've got some good examples of working together with people from the third sector through the voluntary coordination aspect, and again that will set us in good stead for moving forwards into developing communities together.
Thank you, Nikki. Colleague, Liz?
Thank you very much. Looking at the report, this is a pilot that is coming to an end, and there's an awful lot of paperwork with it and whatever. Could you tell me, obviously with the pilot, the whole reason for a pilot is to sort of get things straight and then find how you're going to go forward with the scheme proper as such. Is there anything that has come to light that you will do differently that you have picked up from the pilot scheme?
Yeah. I'm not sure whether there's anything we'd do differently. I suppose what we are looking at is looking back at the original role descriptions of the posts that we recruited to and moving forward. In terms of going forward, what we're looking at now is extrapolating some of the elements of that and taking those forward in a place. And looking at a combination of different funding streams and different organisations to come together in that place in order to keep people well and communities well. So I suppose it would be more around joining together and in going forward and actually taking a vested interest with a number of different strands of work and approaches rather than doing it as a single track.
A lot of what I was going to say has actually been answered, but I well remember the day 2 years or so ago when, Nikki, you came with Simon Birch to tell us, first of all, about this project, and my goodness, we were excited about it. And it's proven to be everything that I think we could have hoped for. The opportunity to give a further lease of life to people rather than going into a dependency culture is something you can't actually put a value on. For those people, it is absolutely extending their life in a very, very useful way. And for that, I thank you for taking this project on and for moving it forward. The finances, as the leaders said, it's secondary in a way, but nevertheless, we do need to consider those, and the only criticism I would have said of this report is I would have liked to have seen all the finances. They're all in there, but if they'd all been brought together in one paragraph explaining it and the outcomes, that would have saved me quite a bit of time in going through the various bits. But that's a small criticism. What I now want to know is the next step, and how long we're going to be before we get to that next step, because it is an important project going forward as well.
Okay, both Claire, Chief Officer, and Julie, I'm sure, will want to come back in as well. Claire, would you like to come in now?
Yeah, Claire Marchant, Chief Officer, Social Care and Health. I think this is a very, very important report that is being considered today, in that the seeds, the gems of an idea really around local area coordination and its implementation have been tried, and the learning from it is immense really. And I think that point that's been made that doing nothing wasn't an option, and the impact of the way that we had organised health and social care previously, and that culture of dependency and all the evidence within the report is very, very telling. Because when we look at our demographics and we look at the populations, we drill that down to the way that we deal with individuals. That's the legacy of the way that we did things previously, and this report and the learning from it starts to give us that direction and the way forward. The learning from it is that purist model of local area coordination, which was originally presented, doesn't work really. You need to look at the strengths within community, the strengths within individuals, and build on that and develop that into these place-based approaches with partners. The well-being, the early intervention and the prevention isn't really our business as social services, it's everybody's business, but we've got to show that key leadership in terms of taking that forward. And across Monmouthshire, we need to make sure that we're working within the different places and communities that we have around that place-based approach with the partners and the strength and the different social capital and resources that can be brought to the table across the different communities and partners within those. As Julie's already said, that evaluation of the whole of the transformation around adult social care is really, really important, because if we do this in isolation from the integrated services, from turning the world on its head in terms of the way that we provide services, we're only seeing part of the picture. And one of the things that Julie and myself will be doing over the next while is working with an academic partner to make sure that we're formally evaluating and taking that learning from everything that's happened in Monmouthshire over the last number of years around adult social care, because to see any one bit in isolation from the others won't give you that total picture about all the different elements that need to be in place.
Thank you, Claire. Any further from colleagues? No, Dimitri.
Yeah, a few questions, particularly around people already in the care system and trying to get them out of that in the system, and the relative failure in that regard. And I'm looking at in the report on page 14 with that little circle, which sort of gives you a kind of pie chart of why, and I believe in the service's opinion, why people haven't left what they call anatomy of dependency. I'm just wondering, how do they develop that list? You know, I'm just wondering how, we got that list, and I know there's a detailed thing on appendices, but it might be the case that some service users actually think it's a better service they're getting now. And I'm wondering, that might not be the case, but how do I know that? It just seems all very negative, and I'm wondering who's led those labels of why someone hasn't engaged with a new service. Just so that's the first question. And on the second question, I think Matthew touched upon it, though. On page, I believe it's 15. Overall, there's been a decrease of 2.3% in the number of care hours purchased weekly. Now, I totally agree with the leader. Actually, it's not really about money. It's about improving lives. Nonetheless, it kind of goes on to say that basically this 2.3% reduction is not necessarily due to this work. So I'm wondering, can we put a figure on that? Or of what the actual impact in a quantifiable sense this work has done?
Okay, I'll come back to Nikki and Julie, I think.
Okay, if I could take the first point, we ran a sister project to this the first year of community coordination and small local enterprise, and that was a project where we were testing strengths-based assessment, and we took the group of people that we have we were providing a service to, who had an open care plan but no allocated key worker. But we had a duty and a responsibility to review that care plan in a period of 12 months. And it was hoped that we would be able to link the community coordinators to that strengths-based assessment process and be able to broker or create different opportunities for people as we were reviewing the open care plan. And we ran, as we rolled out the project, we had a weekly action learning set where the practitioners who were undertaking those strengths-based assessments and the coordinators got together to share the learning and what was happening in practice. And it was through the action learning set that we identified the range of things that we were coming across quite regularly through those conversations with individuals, and they're appended for you at Appendix 1. So it was a combination or accumulation of the findings from the weekly action learning sets and the findings from the practitioners in undertaking those strengths-based assessments, that where you get the anatomy of dependence and where you get those particular attributes in Appendix 1.
I just wanted to add to that, really. In terms of the dependency that we found, I think it was a bit of a shock to us. I think we thought that the direction of travel that we were going in and using the new strengths-based approaches, both with community coordination and with our own social work and integrated workforce, that actually we were going to be able to free these people from, if you like, the dependency cycle that they were in. And actually that wasn't the case. People had become very wedded to what we would see now as pretty traditional care package support. And it served to be incredibly rich learning, because actually we know that we can't go back there. Whatever we do moving forward has not got to create that level of dependence. Hence why this project and other streams of our work are very important, because they focus on what matters, the importance of living a life that matters, as opposed to our old method, which might have been, what's the problem, what's wrong, and how can we fix it by giving you some services. So I think even though it's a negative, it's a positive for us, because it teaches us really that we can't go back to that place.
Yeah, thank you both. Yeah, really helpful. Simon.
Yeah, just one quick question, and it's aimed at Matthew. It's made quite clear that we have to do something because long term we just wouldn't be able to continue the way we were. Is this in our corporate risk assessment? And I just want to know off Matthew, what is it? And if we continue the way we are, is it levelled at a medium risk to the authority, or would we call it long term a low risk? I just want to be clear. I'm not a mind reader. I can't actually remember.
Yeah, thank you. And also, there's a little bit to come back on as well on Councillor Batruni's earlier point on the money. But if I can pick that one up first, in terms of the risk assessments, potentially the risk there is the potential risks associated with an ageing population and the rising cost of services. So this scheme is in as part of our mitigation against that, which I think brings down the level of that risk. I have to confess, I also can't recall the detail of that, but I'll check on the precise level of the risk and come back to you separately. But clearly, the risks associated with an ageing population and the potential of having to provide like-for-like traditional services would be a substantial risk to the authority's finances were we not to be investing in major transformation programs, which are both financial and as described in terms of better outcomes. The point to come back on Councillor Batruni's point around separating out the financial impact of the different elements of transformation. Unfortunately, I mean, it hasn't been possible, and we don't believe it is possible, to fully separate out the effects of this. What we have been able to do is through looking at case studies of some of the individuals that have been touched, is map benefits for individuals, and in some cases financially. What we haven't done is aggregate up all of those. So, for example, I was speaking to a social worker out in Mardy Park. Gentleman had been calling quite a lot. She said this gentleman is on his way to a package of care, £3,500 to £9,000 a year. Actually, because of community coordination, because of the direct intervention, he didn't come in through the front door. So on an individual case study basis, we can say that individual was there's an annual cost saving there, as well as much better outcomes for him of at least £3,500 a year. What we can't do yet is aggregate that right up to say the total benefits of the programme in isolation from the other transformation. Not within our gift. I'm not saying if we invested heavily in academic studies, there wouldn't be something we could do, but in terms of to the best of our abilities, we've gone as far as we can.
Okay, that was very helpful as well, Matt. So Simon, just the risk register is on the hub. You'll be able to access it on the hub and just check that out as well. So that'll be it's accessible for all of us now. Jeff, you can wind up.
Thank you, Chair. Really, I think this is just yet another example of just where we've come as an authority in looking after our citizens of a certain age. I'm utterly proud of this authority, of what we're doing, and it is acknowledged from far wider boundaries than our own as to exactly what is being achieved. There's no complacency here, but when you hear these kind of stories about the fact that the Raglan project now has become the Monmouthshire project, from 5 individuals now to 350 who are taking those holistic approaches to people's care. I'm hearing examples now of normally when people reach an end of life point where, and anecdotally, you become the most expensive point as far as healthcare is concerned at end of life. We've actually got these same individuals staying with families with these people until it ends, and then beyond that, actually providing bereavement support. So not least, we're actually providing utterly first-class services. We're providing it at a fraction of the resources that would have been employed otherwise to achieve this. And the satisfaction from all sides, I think, is self-evident. So I'm just really so proud of it, all that's been achieved, and we've got still far more to do.
Thank you, Jeff, and can I thank you for bringing this report for us? It was really good and timely as well to catch up with it. I'm going to take us straight then to the recommendations that I think we've done these actually. Cabinet are invited to consider the report and the accompanying appendix to evaluate the extent of which the business case has achieved what it set out to do and the extent to which learning can be used to inform future development of services. and that officers are tasked with using this learning to develop the next stage of the transformation journey for adult social care. So I'm sure we all agree with that. All in favour? Yep. Thank you very much. Thank you, officers, for that. That's really great. Okay, let's move on to the People and Organisational Development Strategy 2014-17, and this is a progress report. Phil.
Yes, thank you, Leader. And this policy has been, the strategy has been in place over a year now, but there was a clear need to reflect and update it, and to look at the ongoing workforce engagement. That has been strengthened. It's in terms of greater staff involvement in the People Board. And if you refer to 3.5 in this report, where it says that the progress report highlights how the work programmes have been designed around evidence and feedback from staff and leadership, and points out notable successes around many elements of that, and to pick up on the main ones. We had another staff conference, and all the recommendations from that were taken on board. We've taken the notes from the corporate assessment, which were very helpful in concentrating minds on what needed to be done. And there are planned actions which are in much more detail on page 358 of this report, and that's well worth looking at. There's specific workforce training and workforce plans on the hub, and there's a toolkit there, so staff and managers have a focal point that's consistent. So there's been a lot of thought put into this updated report. It does form the latter part of the strategy, and as I say, reference to page 358 in the report does give quite an insight into the way that it's proposed to take this forward. So at that point, Leader, I'll invite questions.
Yeah, then thank you, Phil, and thanks, Pete. Peter's here. So Peter brought a report. Thank you for bringing it forward, Peter. There's a huge amount going on this again. There's huge amounts going on. I got told this morning I use that word a lot, huge. Well, there is a lot of, there's huge amounts of work going on everywhere in this authority. That's one thing we don't hang about. We're pushing ahead in every area, and our staff, our greatest resource, are fundamental to that success. So it's right and appropriate that we develop in that area all along. And I know there's a lot of actions we're taking forward in summary on 358. Welcome all of that. I suppose a key message for me, listening to two staff conferences really, but with thousands of staff at them, that we are, taking those messages, we're learning from it. But the key message for me is, are we making sure they all get the feedback from what we're learning as well? I know Mon Minds is doing a lot of work in being a conduit through and helping us develop some of those strategies. So just welcome the report, colleagues. Please. Bob.
Yeah, thank you. And I would reiterate and go further. It's both huge and massive, the way that we've moved forward. It's very dangerous to pick out for anybody or any particular area where we've done particularly well. But I do want to mention two areas. They're both in the 3.5. And that is, first of all, the Talent Lab, which I think has been hugely useful to this organisation. And John McConaughey, thanks for all the work that you've done in that. You've brought us forward enormously in terms of the work you've been doing. And also Owen Wilson, who is our volunteer coordinator. More and more we are relying on volunteers. We have to. And you can't just put volunteers in place and hope that they'll do the work. You have to have that work coordinated, and that has been Very, very important for us. I just want to refer to the staff survey responses that we've got on the report. You read the figures and you think, yeah, that's good. Those questions, from memory, are very similar to the questions we'd asked in the previous year, and it would have been helpful if we'd had a comparison with the questions asked in the previous year, so that actually, are we improving in the eyes of staff, or are we not? So perhaps next year we could see some comparative figures for that. That's all. Thanks, Leader.
Colleagues? No? Peter, do you want to add some?
Thanks for the kind words, first off. I'm not going to take any of the credit on this one, aside from, I guess, bringing aspects of the report together. I mean, all the hard work, all the graft has been done by all the people across the people services teams and beyond, wider engagement and involvement with leadership. And it's a huge piece of work. It's a huge piece of work that we've undertaken over the last 12 months. That's reflected in the covering report and obviously the appendices. And like you, on the one hand, it's hard to single out any one individual, as Councillor Greenland said. But just in terms of the people services leads and across the service, everybody from John McConaughey, our training lead, Lisa Knight-Davis, our organisational development lead, our HR lead, Sally Thomas, who's worked tirelessly on a number of areas. Owen Wells on the volunteer front, and our colleagues in our payroll and HR team as well, in terms of the transactional side. And people services, and in terms of the approach that we're moving forward with, is one to bring all aspects of people services together as one, because in their own right they can work very efficiently and effectively to support the needs of the workforce, but they operate much better at working as one. And that's really what they've shown in the last 3 to 6 months. They've been away, they've stepped away, they've assessed all the evidence and the data, they've listened, and they've captured the information, not just through the staff conference, but through many other communication channels we've opened up, through staff peer group on Minds, through the question time sessions we've run through People Board. The list goes on, and we've captured all of that information, and we've channeled that now into our forward work program for the next 12 months. But we're operating in an ever-changing environment. We're in a very fast, dynamic, and fast-paced world. It's no different for a local authority, and we've got a lot of challenges going forward. And clearly, as you just said, stealing my thunder on that one, our staff and our people, are our most valuable asset, and we've got to make sure that they're suitably equipped to meet the challenges that are in front of them over the forward period, and that's ultimately what we're looking to do. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Peter. Dimitri?
The Deputy Leader took the words right out of my mouth in terms of comparison. I mean, you need to be able to compare to really work out success or failure or improvements or where it's been, and I think that's lacking from the report. I would add, though, I completely agree with the thrust of investing in staff. They are actually, everyone keeps saying it, but it's true, the major asset in any organisation. So I support that, but as I said, be able to, as an opposition member, scrutinise. You need to be able to compare.
Fair challenge. Peter?
I think one important aspect of, I recognise the comments made by both Cabinet Member and Dimitri himself there. I think one of the important aspects moving forward is one whereby we are looking to crystallise some of our reporting and governance arrangements that allow us to track progress effectively. Clearly, there are some aspects of that feature within the improvement plan, but as you can see from the report, everything that we do across people services it's pretty wide and deep. So we are looking to move to a position whereby we are going to be bringing together a people services annual report, and we will stick that in on an annual cycle. And that will be both a backward-looking reflective report and a forward-looking report, so that we make sure we are acting on current real-time data and obviously things that are emerging and coming forward. But further to that, we will also be looking to put in place quarterly scorecards, and we will operate those at both a directorate and a senior leadership team level, and be looking to bring those in front of members periodically. So hopefully that will, going forward, satisfy the points made.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Simon.
Yeah, just a quick note, Leader. The Select did go through the report, and we're more than happy with the content of the report. And I think that was made the point is the data and the challenges on that data for the next report. We were assured that they would be there, so we were more than happy. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, and echo all of Peter, all of your thanks to all of your staff who are working so hard for this council. There's no doubt about that. Can I move us to the recommendations then? So 2.1, that the Cabinet receives an update progress of 2015-16 against the people and organisational development strategy for 14-17, we've just done that, and that Cabinet approves the draft People Services Business Plan for 2016-17 that contains the workforce delivery plan for the concluding year of the current strategy. All in favour of receiving those? Thank you very much. Okay. Now can I move us on to another strategy, and this is the county strategy business case. Bob.
Thank you, Leader. There's no doubt about it that in the council, and in fact any business of today, IT is at the heart of everything we do. But I think it's important that we don't let IT run us. It should be a tool to enable us to do our jobs better, to enable us to communicate better. And the iCounty strategy, which was approved in 2014, very much had that at heart. And now we're looking at the strategy, but also the business plan coming forward for the next 3 years. That's what we're at the moment. ITC is still a new technology, and it's an evolving technology, and with it comes a new sort of language. And many of us cannot understand that language. And it is really a language for the techies. All we want IT to do is to work, and to work well. But as we move forward, as IT moves forward, it's also important that we move forward with it. We must be at the leading edge, really, to get the maximum advantages out of IT. And it's for not only our staff, but it's also important for those people that we serve, the residents of Monmouthshire. To be able to interact with us, they need good communications, they need fast broadband, and we must look to enable that to happen as well. And we certainly have. We've made some big progress recently, most notably in the white areas recently with the AB Internet project that has come up. So I want, if I may, to hand over to Sian Williams, the Digital and Technology Manager, and she will take us through in about 2 or 3 minutes through the report, I hope.
Yeah, Sian Haywood, Digital and Technology Manager.
I do beg your pardon.
That's absolutely fine. I'll just provide a brief overview for you. I've tried to write the report in plain English because I am very aware that I'm in the thick of this. So some of the report may contain terminology that people are not familiar with. So I'm happy to clarify that for you, anything at all for you later on. iCounty's been in place for just over 18 months. It's still very current and very valid. And during the last 18 months, me and my small team have been talking to people, gathering information to help us shape the new plan over the next few years, in fact, not just the next year. what we've learned over the last 18 months is there are around about 7 aspects or themes to iCounty that link together, and it'll help us to harness the benefits of technology to improve how we engage with our customers and work more effectively and efficiently. So working on these themes will provide the bedrock almost for digitisation in Monmouthshire. I've written about them in the report. The themes include using digitisation to improve the way that we work, reviewing and rationalising the IT systems that we use, ensuring we have effective governance and policies in place to protect our information and our decision making, and most importantly that we have the right ICT knowledge, equipment and infrastructure to do our jobs effectively, and also working with the businesses of Monmouthshire to help them with their technology requirements. It's fair to say that the very most important thing we've learned is that we need to be more human, and this may on the surface seem to contradict a digital strategy, but it's the people that we work with and the work that we do that should drive technology solutions, not the other way around. And the needs of our customers should drive our business, and our customers are the people who work in Monmouthshire, who live in Monmouthshire, who visit Monmouthshire, as well as our employees within MCC. There's a very strong link between the digital strategy and the people strategy that you've just heard about, especially where we are harnessing the benefits of technology to change the way we work. It's critical for our workforce to have digital skills and knowledge to do their jobs, with the added benefit that they can take that skills and knowledge home with them and pass them on into the community. This is particularly relevant for our leaders, because all leaders need to have digital knowledge, not technology knowledge, not necessarily how to fit the nuts and bolts, but how to think digitally and how digitisation can improve the way that we work in our business. The delivery of this plan requires us to work with our technology providers, the SRS, to ensure that their strategy joins up with ours and feeds into their business plan, and we will be managing their performance against our business plan and their business plan going forward. It's a good point to bring in here that Cabinet have already agreed an investment in ICT in schools, to provide a robust ICT platform and enable digital teaching and learning to happen in schools. Work began in January this year to implement the upgrade, which will continue over the next 18 months, and it will culminate in the all schools having their ICT services hosted within the SRS in their state-of-the-art facility up there. The next steps then will be to work with education colleagues in MCC and perhaps the EAS and further on to make sure that our ICT infrastructure enables the delivery of teaching, digital teaching and learning, and as well as equipping our young people with the digital skills to move forward in the economy and digital industries. Financially, there are savings to be made by having a smaller number of integrated ICT systems that share information and databases, and there are also savings to be made from collaborating and sharing ICT platforms across several different local authorities, and we're working on that within the Greater Gwent area. There's also substantial savings to be made by using technology to simplify and automate the way we manage our businesses and interact with our customers. Digital access is becoming the norm. I'm often up in the middle of the night interacting with various organisations when I can't sleep. And whilst we won't take away the personal interaction there, we'll continue to respond to the rising demand for digital transactions. It's inevitable that there's going to be some investor save requirements arising on a business case by business case basis. And there'll also be a requirement for people to manage the ICT platforms that we implement, to make the best of them and to make sure that we got the efficiency savings in place. So that's just a summary of what we intend to do, what we would like to do, and I'll answer any queries you've got alongside Peter, who can elaborate on some of the business areas that we're entering into.
Thank you, Sian. I hope you don't have too many more sleepless nights with this. Now we get this business plan approved, you'll have a lovely sleep, and please don't feel you have to, contact any of us in the middle of the night. Okay, colleagues. Anybody wish to? Liz.
Sorry. Thank you very much for your run through the report, and I'm so pleased that you've picked out about schools, because the only and I may have missed it, and I do apologise if I have, but the only reference to the schools I can see is in 8, the future generations, because we have invested a lot of money, and I know there's a separate strategy for it, but I just thought there could have been a little bit more of a link there. Because as far as schools are concerned, there is such a large investment that it would be worth perhaps mentioning that. The other thing that I'd like to bring up is on page 6, I think it is, or page 390. Now, you did explain at the beginning that sometimes it's very difficult to write things in plain English, but I understand, there's a lot of jargon, etc. I understand all that. But when you look at that roadmap, the digital roadmap in 6, first of all, it looks like a spider's web, not a roadmap. But I cannot understand half of it. And I'll be quite honest with you. These reports come to Cabinet for us to make decisions on. And the content of it doesn't revolve around this, thankfully. But if it did, I couldn't approve the report because I don't understand what end-to-end integration is. I don't know what DRBC is, BYOD, L3. There's 101 things on here that really don't mean anything to me. And it would just be nice to have some, and I'm sure I'm not the only person, some idea, some clue perhaps, that went with it, so that it would make it easier for us to understand, because as you say, some of us are on a back foot anyway, so perhaps don't make it any more difficult than it has to be.
I'm sure you're itching to give us some clarity over the roadmap and the thinking behind it, Sian.
Yeah, the roadmap itself is all of the detail that we use, and some of the detail is acronyms for systems that we use. BYOD, bring your own device into work. End-to-end means that everything starts, that everything's linked, everything's coordinated and integrated. So yes, I do apologise for some of the acronyms there. Most of them refer to particular ICT systems that we use, rather than sort of like tasks that we have to do or workflow needs that we have to do. I could go through this in detail with you now, but it probably wouldn't be productive to do that with you now.
Just next
more
time,
than well.
Please.
So, I'm sorry?
The next report, just please make sure.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it wouldn't be productive for me to do that now.
Thank you, Sian. Yeah, Peter. I'll just bring Peter in now. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Leader. First off, I'm going to start with a thanks again, and thanks to Sian for obviously bringing this report together with her small team. I think taking on board Liz's point, and it is a fair one, and I think equally Sian's response is too. As is the case, as you will have seen from the previous agenda item, and with regards to the people strategy, this is an ongoing and iterative piece of work, and similarly that applies for iCounty as well. I think importantly, and with regards to, I guess, moving ourselves forward as a digital council, as a digital authority, and obviously linked into the work that's evolving around Council of the Future, and I guess the transformation of the organisation at large, we need to make sure, and going back to a point that Councillor Greenland made earlier, that the business drives our technology, and that's important. The detail is important to certain people, not all people, but to certain people. But I think the work that is going to be ongoing over the coming months is vital, really. Sian's touched on a couple of aspects of that. One is, I guess, determining our own future in terms of walking the path of a digital council. The other aspect of it, I guess, and reflecting on the SRS, is working in conjunction with the SRS and the partnering authorities to look at where the real opportunities exist to collaborate and to collapse systems. But at the heart of it, and points that have already been made, you know, all of this should be really simple. It should be simple to the end user. It should be simple to members of staff. And Sian often makes reference to the fact that, you know, IT is in effect the fourth utility, and it should be. It should be seamless, and it should be sitting in the background. So we take on board the comments regarding detail, but we will be looking to bring forward further reports in the coming months once we've crystallised better, I think, our pipeline of work. And that will only come as a result of the evolving conversations that we're having with our partnering authorities and internally.
Thank you, Leader. As we all know, technology is moving faster and faster. What I haven't seen any mention of in the report is AI, artificial intelligence, or anything to do with chatbots. I didn't see much in regards to 4G or 5G. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at digital page 396 on the big map. And I'm seeing such things as customer services, end-to-end integration, connected worker common platform, GIS mapping, I can't read that, case management, mobility. Am I to understand, as you've just said, there will be further reports coming? Can I expect 4G, 5G, AI and chatbots to start appearing as they're the next big moves in comms?
It's a very fair point that's been raised, actually, and I think for those who've read the report end to end, you will notice that there is reference to the bulk of the report deals with there are three pillars to iCounty. There is an internal pillar, there is an external pillar, and I guess there are aspects of where we can look to commercialise some of our offer. The bulk of the report deals with the internal, okay, and it does. Not solely, and Councillor Greenland has touched on some of the work, the very good work that we've done on the external strand around broadband, etc. But again, this is an evolving piece of work, and I'm going to respond to the question, I guess, both on the internal and the external aspect, and they do mesh. And Kelly may wish to come over the back of me now and comment further, but. In terms of taking things forward and determining, I guess, the council of the future and what digital means in that context, there's going to be stuff that's just not contained in this report yet, because we just haven't got to it yet. And things such as the point that Councillor Hobson's made around AI and robotisation and automation and all of those are things that will, they are not far-fetched things. They are things that will be taken into consideration. Even in the internal aspect, in terms of driving very effective public service delivery. On the external strand, I think there is there's a realisation, I guess, that we have had some reserve funding in place that takes us up to May of this year, and we are going to have to make do for a period. With regards to the level of internal resource that we have at our disposal. We will continue to work with partners such as Welsh Government, BT, BD UK, etc., to try and make sure that we are bringing forward the right infrastructure and investment into the county around things such as broadband and mobile connectivity. But I think there are wider opportunities that will present going forward through City Deal and other avenues.
Thank you, Peter. Just, a couple of points. Sian, something which I do welcome this report. I mean, you're right. It is a key utility. I mean, I'd be lost without we'd all be lost. I don't know how we'd be ages before we got back to normality without our IT. So it's with us, and it needs to be with us. A couple of things. Remote access is something we've wanted to forward from a member's perspective as well. I don't see it in the road map there. There's some of those. I don't think as a council we set off with good aspirations about the utilisation of our webcasting opportunities and to save driving around and things. And I don't know if we're perhaps doing enough in that regard yet. And I think that's the same with all authorities and all organisations. But you get into some of the private sector, and they are just living by it day by day because they're doing business internationally, so they have to. And I just hope we can get to that stage. But certainly, I know it's not perhaps in our gift as yet. There needs to be perhaps some legals to sort out about remote access. We equip this chamber indeed to, I think, accommodate up to 5 individuals, I think, accessing remotely to a meeting. So just to be mindful of those development strands as well, perhaps. Did you want to come in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are things that we are working on. We've got Skype for Business now that we didn't used to have. And we've also got devices now which we're going to purchase for any meeting rooms, so you can have perhaps 30 or 40 people in a meeting and externally as well. So all of those things are being worked on, and it's under MDM. One of those acronyms in there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, right. Thanks for that, Sian. Any other members? No? Dimitri.
Yeah, quickly, it's about the pillars. On one internal, it talks about systems, data delivery and infrastructure. I presume improving the skills of our workforce is included in that, but it's not explicitly mentioned. I wonder if it maybe should be, given that, as Liz kind of demonstrated, even though she's a cabinet member, knowledge of technology and the acronyms and how it all works is going to be central to delivering anything. Also, a link to I suppose this is tacitly mentioned by the statements, stimulate participation in public life. I hope that doesn't just mean we have a Twitter account or we engage in Facebook, because I know there's, and I take note of your point, Peter, that actually technology is moving so fast it's hard to keep up, but of accountability, particularly politicians actually, not only the ones in charge but opposition as well, where I believe in Boston now they have real-time data, a data dashboard, where they basically monitor service delivery as much as possible in a real-time way, and it's very much linked to a political accountability. I think it's a mayor system there. And then there's like a city index score, which sort of says health, well-being, or I think it's health or well-being, I can't remember which one it is. And I'm wondering, is that even in our mindset about that? Because I think there's a key aspect to this, and I don't see the word accountability. It might be in there, but I think that's a critical aspect of this. And lastly, you'd be pleased to know about, oh, it actually just escaped my mind. I'm just going to have to live without answering.
Can I bring Paul in?
I'm frightened now in case Kelly hits me. I'll deal with Councillor Petruni's last question because he forgot it, so that's easy. But the one before that, where he was, I guess, relating more US experiences. They are extremely interesting. One or two of us have had the opportunity to see them in real time. One of the things about US cities, and it tends to be cities, the dominant force is one of scale rather than mayor, in my view. You have cities with thousands and thousands of grads who give of their time freely, graduates to give of their time freely, and they develop some of the most amazing systems and programs which actually help you almost get the rhythm and the beat of a city and enable you to move and act in real time. I was party to a conversation just yesterday hosted by Cardiff University, which was posing the question, actually, as an emerging Cardiff capital region, is that something that we should be interested in? In my view, the answer is yes, because data becomes useful when you convert it into information and knowledge and you can act on it. Otherwise, it is just data. So I think we'll see the emergence of that sort of thinking, Councillor Petruni. I don't think it's going to happen any time in the next 6, 9 or 12 months. But I think as a region, you know, with a scale of 1.5 million people, all of a sudden that becomes a possibility for us, for Monmouthshire County Council, with 90,000, perhaps not.
Okay, thanks. Simon.
Yeah, thanks, Leader. I think it just boils down to everything. I think you're doing a great job, Sean, and the team in delivering the basics or trying to lift it up from the basics. It all boils down to cash, Leader. We can have what we want, but it boils down to the money and the technology is out there, and it just depends what we decide as a council we want to drive this. So I'm more than happy at the moment with what we have there. If we want to go to the next stage and deliver some of these main objectives with our partners, it will take money and will cost money. I think you're quite right, Paul, Chief Executive. Big cities, big bucks. That's what it's about. This is big bucks, and we're 90,000 population. City deal may drive some of the aspirations that we have as a council, and everybody has them, to the next level. But carry on and continue, and we're getting there.
Thanks, Simon. I think City Deal will drive a lot of change. You know, we've got some real fundamental thinking around innovative practice and public service practice and public service change as it goes forward. So yeah, really exciting times ahead, I think, on all fronts. So can I thank you, Sian, for bringing this forward. Oh, sorry, did you want to sum up, Bob? Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Sian, really. She has got an extremely small team working for her. The amount of work they do is phenomenal, and I think they need to ensure that they're not going to be diverted onto other work, and perhaps we need to make sure that moving forward they are able to focus on the areas of work which are important to us going forward. I think that is really important, but that's something that we need to consider in the near future. And just finally on the language of IT, yeah, that's really, and I don't mean Sian's nocturnal emails, which I'm sure is what she meant, but when Councillor Hobson referred to AI, most of the farmers in the room would have thought of artificial insemination. So if we're going to talk about artificial intelligence, can we have something different to call it by? Otherwise the farmers will be terribly confused.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, that's what I associated with. Yeah. Can I, by the way, just comment how good the website looks with the changes that have happened? Well done. All those teams at the back, I see. Yeah, well done. Good stuff. Okay, the recommendation then, Sian, thank you. The recommendation is that Cabinet agree the 1619 I-County Business Plan and Delivery Report. All in favour? Thank you very much. Right, let's... Right, move on to the place efficiency assessment. Liz.
Thank you very much, Leader. I'm sure people will remember that the draft report came to us earlier in the year, and we are now going to approve, with Cabinet's thoughts, the place efficiency assessment and action plan for 16-17 that was submitted to the Welsh Government in draft. The recommendations are to approve the play sufficiency assessment and the action plan, and to mandate the play strategy group to seek to progress the key actions identified in the action plan. The report goes into a lot of very good detail about the definition of play, the scope of the progress that has taken place. When the draft came to us, I know that the matter of safeguarding was brought up, and that has also been picked up in Children and Young People Select, and that is mentioned in the report, and also in the next report on the recommendations from Select. This then expands further into the tool assessment, which has been slightly changed. There are two parts to this tool assessment kit, part 1 and part 2, and then the action plan follows that on page 53 or 471. I think it is quite straightforward. Again, an awful lot of work has gone into this and explaining what is going to be done, who's going to be doing it, evidence to support the strengths, shortfalls, and the actions for the action plan. I think it is quite self-explanatory, and I will open it up to questions from Cabinet.
Thank you, Liz. Colleagues? No, as you say, Liz, self-explanatory. Dimitri?
Yeah, it's a question on the assessment toolkit and questions about the RAG status of some of them, focusing on the reds. Brownfield sites, one. Brownfield sites owned by local authority assessed for the potential for the site to be reclaimed to provide children's play. It was red in 2013, it's red in 2016. Although it must be limited, not given Monmouthshire's rurality. I wonder, why is it still red? Are we not even assessing how we encourage children to play? Also further on down, the local areas erected signs such as play priority signs to encourage more children playing in the community. No signs, by looks of it, have been put up. Yeah, and this was red in 2013, red in 2016. In fact, the opposite seems to be happening. I know maybe the authority itself, but certainly sister organisations like MHA are putting up signs saying quite the opposite. And that might be legitimate reasons in terms of balls being hit against cars, you know, usual stuff like that. But in some green spaces, the children are definitely not being encouraged to play. In fact, quite the reverse. I'm just wondering their kind of thoughts on that.
Thank you. Sorry, Matthew Lewis, the Green Infrastructure and Countryside Manager. Yes, you're entirely right. There are some areas that are red in the RAG status and haven't moved. I think one of the features, and it's referred to in the report of the original 2013 Play Action Plan, was it contained a huge number of actions, and progress is fairly mixed on their delivery. Inevitably, the resource constraints have been that some have been progressed more than others. And I think that's part of the change that we're proposing with this report, is to step back and take a slightly more strategic view, a longer-term view, and a view that sort of more embraces integration and partnership working, and to set out, as we've done in 3.7, those sort of key areas and themes for actions, which we'll hopefully maintain over the next 3 years as we roll forward the annual plan. So I think some of those RAG are where they're red are as a result, almost if you like, of a positive decision not to do things. I.e., there's particular red in some of the workforce planning areas, but that partly reflects the fact that we don't have any employed play workers as such. I think others, like perhaps the Brownfield site assessment, is probably just a consequence of the fact that there were so many actions in the original action plan. And I think we've homed down now, as you say, into trying to reflect, and also picking up on the signage issue, also reflecting on the consultation, themes which I'll admit are not, they're not exclusive to us. They reflect also sort of what other authorities have done as well, looking around, space for play, but also about attitudes to play as well. And I think that definitely came out in the consultation, that other adults' attitudes and parents' attitudes to play is one of the seriously limiting factors around children taking up play opportunities. And I think that is a change in the action plan going forward that we'll hopefully reflect in the play strategy group as how we can do that, obviously still within limited resources, but trying to concentrate on those sort of key actions.
Thank you, Matthew. Simon? No, nothing? Right, so the recommendations then are to approve the Play Sufficiency Assessment and Action Plan for 16-17, and to mandate the Play Strategy Group to seek to progress the key actions identified in the action plan. All in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you, Matthew. Right, let's move on to the last report today, and the recommendations and outcomes from select committees. We thank Select Committee, well, Hazel, for presenting this report today, but it's on behalf of all Select chairs, I know, and we know we have two here today, and it's really important that we do receive these updates in this way, and I welcome that, and for us to note the work that's going on, and a huge amount of work, I'll use that word again, sorry, a huge amount of work that's going on in all of your agendas, and it is extremely helpful and absolutely fundamental to the good governance of this council that the select committees are so thorough in their challenge and also in their observations in helping us to form the policies going forward. So I hope it goes without saying too much that we do really welcome the work that the select committees are doing. The record there shows all the way through the various elements that have been picked up. We've all looked through for key indications and recommendations. No specific heavy recommendations within this report as we've noted, but clearly there are actions that we'll be mindful of as we take forward our thinking as it rolls forward. So it's quite a, when you see it captured like this, because there is so much and there's so many meetings going on and many additional meetings over and above what's in the diary, you just get a flavour of how hard our select committees are working. And I thank you, chairs. Can you take that back, that message back? Thank your members for all the work they do. And I know sometimes you're short of members, and so I know there are many who are having to have quite a lot of work on their shoulders trying to carry the various expectations of the council. So and it's not always shared out perhaps as it should be. So I'm not sure if colleagues have got anything they want to pick up out of the specific areas which cover their portfolios, but I'm just a general thank you for the work that's been done.
Can I, if I could just make a general comment, I welcome the report as well. It is entitled Recommendations. It is coming to Cabinet, so I assume it means recommendations to Cabinet. And the latest report that we've got is the 3rd of March. And from the 8th of March, the 17th, or two meetings on the 17th of March, we don't have any feedback because the minutes aren't available. I think this is unfortunate. If we are going to make best use of this, it would be useful if we had a note of any issues that arose from those later meetings, because otherwise we will have passed through and be on to something else by the time we get these reports back. So I would have thought, and we've got two chairs of selects here, is it possible for the chairs perhaps to compile a list of those issues which were coming up, although they may not be minuted, so that we can consider those at our following Cabinet meeting, rather than wait until the issue's probably done and dusted, the meeting after that?
I'm going to bring Tracy in a second, and just to get some clarity of how this format's going to roll out now going forward, because it's it's really useful to gather it together and what the expectations are from Select in this regard.
Thank you, Leader. Tracy Harry, Head of Democracy and Regulatory Services. In terms of today's report, it's capturing all of the actions and recommendations that have come out of Select. We don't wait until it comes to Cabinet to act on the actions, and chairs of Select can comment themselves, but generally if there's any specific action that comes out of a Select, then the chair of Select Committee will write to the relevant Cabinet member, identifying the action and asking for them to respond appropriately. So this is basically just a capture of all of the actions that have taken place over the last period.
Can I just so that I'm clear that Cabinet are on track? Are there outstanding? Is this working as it should do? Are we all responding to the things we're supposed to respond to in the appropriate time frames, because we need to hear that message if we're not, so that we can actually sharpen things up.
I think, Leader, generally, Cabinet members actually attend select committees. Generally, the issues are there, they hear them at the meeting, and they agree actually at the meeting what actions will be taken. So from that perspective, generally, it's actions are undertaken appropriately. Where they're not, obviously, chairs of select do write to the Cabinet members outlining their concerns. Clearly, we can always improve, and the next step that we want to take is that the actions taken by the Cabinet members are formally reported to the next Select Committee, which isn't happening at the moment. So that will close that loop. So there is room for improvement, but generally, yes, actions are taken.
And so how does that, what elements of process need to be put in place to make sure that feed in? Is that an officer process which just needs to be formulated?
What will happen is at the next Select Committee meeting, following the actions that were identified at the previous meeting, as part of the minutes, the formal response to the actions will be included as a report back to that Select Committee.
I'm also conscious, and I note what you say, that Cabinet members attend a lot of select committees, but I'm clear we also need to act within our protocol where we come when we're invited. So there's at times where there'll be things discussed where Cabinet members won't be there, and nor should they be there. That's the one thing I was conscious of, that I don't want things to be slipping through the loop if our systems aren't quite tight enough. And so, hopefully it's strengthening all the time.
Absolutely, Leader, and that's where the chairs of select would email the Cabinet member if they weren't present to say, look, these are the recommendations that have come out of the committee. Can you identify the actions that you're going to take to respond? So it is tightening it up all the time.
Thank you. As we have two select committee chairs, and I'm going to invite Penny. First of all, you indicated you wouldn't mind saying something.
Thank you. Councillor Penny Jones, Chair of Children and Young People Select Committee. Thank you, Leader, for letting me speak. Yes, it's a process that does worry us, and in particular because the WAO are looking at it very closely and are not satisfied with the process to date. So we really must work hard on this. And it's the chairs that have to write to the Cabinet member concerned, or email in this case, so that there is a paper trail with the recommendations and actions of the meeting if they're not present. And as you say, they are invited to be present sometimes and others they're not. So this is very important. Where it has fallen down somewhat is there is no comeback on that paper trail, and there's, things go down a large great hole and nobody quite knows where we go from there. So it is very important, I think, that we have a reply as part of the paper trail, and then later on when the Cabinet have had a meeting, that we have again the minutes, or we have a report of what happens, the actions to be taken as a result of our recommendations. This can then be taken forward to our own committee and reported back, and it is that kind of trail that is missing at the moment, that is disjointed in some areas, and it's new to us all, and we're all trying to get it together, but it is important that that takes place.
Okay, thank you. Tracy?
If I could just add to that, Leader, in terms of the use of modern gov, that also provides us with the opportunity to trace any decision that's made through this organisation. So if an item is discussed at Select Committee and then it's discussed at Cabinet and then Council, we can actually use modern gov to actually trace that decision right the way through every committee and every minute. So that, again, that's using digitisation to assist us to improve so that we've got that audit trail of decisions.
Thank you. Colleagues? Yeah, Brian?
I get a lot of help, I would call it, I suppose, from select committees, particularly Simon's. And the one big bit of help we've had was with the recycling review, which went on for a long time. There's an awful lot of work, and hopefully we'll see that come to fruition. The other one, which we had a lot of work with, a bit less popular, was the hedgerow policy, the pollinator policy, all about the birds and the bees, And if you like birds and bees, it's fine. If you don't like your car getting scratched by a bramble, well, you didn't like it. So, but anyway, that's politics. But thank you, Simon, for your committee's work.
Okay, any other cabinet members? Can I bring Dimitri in, please? No, Simon. And as a select chair, I'm sure you'll want to reflect as well.
Yeah, thank you, Leader, and thank you, Brian. And I think basically overall, I think we're more than happy with the Cabinet as reference to asking them to attend. And it is important that when you are asked, you can try and get along. It's not always possible that you can get there, but we're more than satisfied. I think the points of linking up, making sure that the reports, which you may receive late, who knows, the planner, the forward planner, it's your planner. You give it to us, and if we want to look at it, we will look at it. And it may be that sometimes we don't look at items, but it may be that we don't look at them for reasons which are quite simple. But most of the time, the planner is important for us because the plans our workload, which enables us then to take forward what your decisions are going to be as a cabinet, because most of it goes through cabinet, some goes through council. But it's your planner, the SLT and yourself set that planner, and if we have that in advance, it gives us lots of times then to focus on what we want to do, and then that's important so you know what are pivotal within being scrutinised. So I do thank you. Whenever we've requested cabinet members, I'd say 99% they do attend, and we do give them a thorough examination, but they do respect that on one respect, that they're there as well to make sure that the document is watertight and ready to go to the next step. So I have no issues with you as cabinet. Well, I'm saying that. I'm not really saying that, honestly.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you for those words. It gives some confidence that we're heading in the right direction. And as I started, each part of the process is important for a successful and quality governance, and Select is an important part in that. The recommendations there are I think we've accepted, but we'll just read them through quickly. The Cabinet acknowledged the contribution made by the Council Select Committees toward policy development and decision making. Yes, we certainly do. I hope you recognise that. And that Cabinet members familiarise themselves with the outcomes of the Select Committees, which we've seen in the report, and respond appropriately to the recommendations and requests from those committees in line with our protocol. Are we all in favour of receiving those? Thank you. That brings us almost to the end of the meeting. There's just one last thing I want to say. We've got a member of staff with us today. It's our last meeting. Sarah King, our clerk for today, and a key officer in Democratic Services, is moving or changing roles. Still linked to local government, and will be still working with us in a new role with Caldecott Town Council. Sarah, can I, on behalf of Cabinet, and I'm sure on behalf of all members, thank you for the way you've carried out your role. You've done a brilliant job. You really, I know you haven't been there in too longer time for this senior position, but you've been here a long time. And we've really enjoyed working with you. I think you've provided an excellent service for us, and I wish you all the very best working with Caldecott Town Council, and I'm sure we will be crossing swords in some way. I'm sure, because it's usually a pretty active relationship between Caldecott Town Council and the County Council. So can I wish you well and thank you once again. And with that, can I thank you all for your attendance, and those at home, and thank you, and look forward to the next meeting.